anyway, the way Miss Betty always tells it. And I have to believe it's true, although I never dared ask Carnihan for his version of it. The reason was, Carnihan could be extraordinarily sensitive about his mother, and the mere mention of her name was often enough to choke him up. Cancer killed her when he was still just a boy, and his father, a storekeeper in town, raised him without any help except for a great aunt who reported once a week to clean the house and cook a hot meal and remind them both what a woman was like. When Carnihan was a kid, he was always desperately trying to embrace any new experience. He said it was on account of missing his mother. He just felt he had to fill the void with whatever felt right at the time, or with whatever worked, as I seem to recall him saying. For a time there was a picture of Miss Deanie he carried in his wallet. It had been clipped from a larger photograph and showed her head topped with a foot-tall beehive hairdo, her fine blue eyes squinting from behind a pair of granny glasses. One day at school, Carnihan lost the picture, or somebody stole it, and he went running down the hall yelling like a madman, and it took 2 teachers and a janitor to subdue him. The principal called his father at work and asked him to report to the school immediately, and when Mr. Hank arrived, sweating through his clothes and nervously chewing his lips, he and Carnihan stood by the front office and held each other for a long time. They just held each other, with their faces pressed close, and both of them sobbing. This happened between classes, when students were supposed to report to their next room, and chaos reigned in the hallway. A few of the onlookers, myself among them, whispered about the dead parent, and some wept silently, and still others tittered and scuffled among themselves, lest they appear to endorse behavior such as the Carnihans. Mr. Hank was wearing his work apron and carrying a feather duster, and he kept patting Carnihan on the back of the head and telling him everything would be okay. Nearly 10 years had passed since Miss Deanie's death, but you'd have thought it had happened that same morning. "You'll be fine, boy," Mr. Hank was saying. "You'll be fine. Come now, chin up. Up, chin up." Someone arrived with a camera and took a picture, and later it ran in The Tiger, our senior yearbook. "Henry Jackson Carnihan III consoles Henry Jackson Carnihan IV," the caption said. The only reason I mention this incident is to state at the outset that none of us, even those closest to him, could ever make good sense of Carnihan. People said, "Over a picture of darned Dizzy Deanie, can you believe?" and cackled to show their dismay. Or they said, "Carnihan ain't long for this world." Or, "Watch, he'll do something really stupid one day." In any event, we wondered how a person could love his mother that much, and secretly, we envied his reputation as an eccentric. Carnihan was as wild a thing as there ever was in smoke, and for that he deserved both our pity and our worship. After high school, he joined the Navy and was stationed for 2 years at a base in the Philippines before returning home and going to work at his father's general mercantile store. It wasn't hard for me to square my image of him as a romantic rebel with the person who reported to hometown family goods each morning, a knee-length apron covering his suit of navy polyester, a red club tie hanging from his neck, and I took this as further proof of Carnihan's unpredictable nature. At age 22, he married a local girl named Marla Castle, but she left him after a few months and filed for divorce. The legal papers cited irreconcilable differences, but Carnihan told me she had ambition and just didn't want to waste her life on a guy who worked at a general store. After she left, Carnihan started to drink at the local bars, and he gambled away most of his salary on football and basketball games, car races, beauty contests, anything. He quickly found himself in the hole, and tired of dodging bookmakers, he sold his and Marla's little starter home on Court Street, paid his debts off, and moved in with Mr. Hank. This period of abstinence, as he would later call it, lasted but a few years, and then he was reborn to the life he'd known earlier, which is to say to the life of a man bent on denying himself nothing. By now he was 24 years old, and I was living away and seldom saw him. The times I did return home, however, always on vacation, we sat amidst the clutter of the hometown office and talked about women. "Sit down, brother," he'd say. "Let me tell you a story. You're not going to believe it." And he'd rattle off a tale about some woman he picked up and took to a hotel and went to bed with. I knew there was scant truth to his stories, but I found them fantastic and enjoyed hearing him talk. When he got excited, he'd pace the floor, his hands flailing the air.